Hello, friends. You found us at Casseroles and Tacos podcast. And I'm Katie. I happen to be the casseroles half of the team here, serving up casseroles from Middle Tennessee.
And I'm Andrea over here in California, basically living on tacos. And we're so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us again. Thank you for joining us last week. If you listened to, or I guess it would be 2 weeks ago, our show. Thank you for your feedback and your encouragement for Jess. And just thank you so much for joining us and walking this crazy journey called life with us. We really appreciate you guys. And we're so excited that you're back with us this week. And this week we thought that we would maybe keep it a little maybe light and fun and start to welcome fall and talk about some of our favorite recipes for this time of year. Now, I don't know about Katie, and we'll get to that in a minute, but I have the windows open and I'm not melting and it's not 1,000,000 degrees and it's just been absolutely amazing, which means I am enjoying hot beverages and meals that take a little longer to cook. And the oven has been on a few times. So I'm living the dream over here, guys. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about food because we love talking to you about food. So we thought today would be a fun day for you guys to pull out your Casseroles and Tacos recipe book to get ready to take some notes on some of our favorite recipes for this time of year. And yeah, so I'm just going to pass it off to you, Katie, because I'm dying to hear what you've got ready to cook in your new home.
Yes, Andrea, I am in my new home. I laugh because we've got 1 foot in the new home and 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If you follow us at Heritage Ways, you probably know that we are staying in our son Owen's yard and house that he lives in. And this is our home base. Well, we haven't taken off yet in our RV, but we do have our RV. And you know what? My husband said the first thing, we're right now in the midst of getting the thing packed for the first time, just loaded up with what we think we're going to need. And my husband said, I want you to get the kitchen situated first. And, you know, he knows the importance of that. He's a wise man. And he said, I want you to get the kitchen situated first. Number one, because we just have a lot of kitchen stuff. I mean, you know, the kitchen entails a lot of stuff. And I have an awesome pantry that was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't expect that because I didn't read the floor plan correctly. So that was a good surprise. And so, you know, he said, work on that and then we'll work on bedrooms and such. So I've really been, doing that. And I've had probably 3 to 5 really good days of, just trying to figure out what is going to go where. And, oh, Katie, you don't need that pot or pan and you thought you did and so forth. One thing, that I do have, and you can see a picture of this on my Instagram, Heritage Ways Instagram, I'm not willing to give up my spices and seasonings. Now, I buy them in bulk from, I happen to buy them, I used to buy them years ago from St. Charles, Missouri. And there was a bulk spice store. And it's a great one. So if you're in that area, and I think they mail order, I think it's called Ye Old Spice Shop, maybe. But lately, in more recent years, I buy from the Amish because that's where my Ohio family, they live in Amish community. And, you know, the Amish buy huge bulk spices and they're fresh, they're good. And then they repackage them and they are so inexpensive. That's how I get my spices. So, I mean, I buy containers and containers of them and bags of Himalayan sea salt and that kind of thing. Well, I was not willing to part with my spices. So what I did is I pared them down in 1/2 pint jars, which is still, that's a lot of spice, depending on what the spice is. I mean, if it's something like Italian seasoning, it's really not going to go as far as you have a 1/2 pint jar of ground cloves, for example. But I ended up, with an embarrassing number of little jars. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to embarrass myself right here and say it is 3 dozen. 3 dozen, Andrea, glass jars of spices and seasonings. And that includes my dried onion and, so the dried chunky stuff, the leaves and the dried things, and then the ground things, like the cinnamon and the cloves and the allspice. I love my spices and my seasonings. So that's something that is here packed in our pantry. And of course, I've got nice little labels on them because I like labels. And so I thought it'd be great. I don't know how this is going to work out in this RV, this small, tiny home. But in my other homes, I've always made bulk seasoning mixes. For example, chili seasoning mix or, a ranch dressing mix. And I would put it in either half-gallon jars or quart jars. And so I've always enjoyed doing that. Now, Andrea, is that something you've ever done? And if so, how did that change when you, moved into a tiny home, an RV?
Well, when you said it's an embarrassing number, I had to laugh because you're not going to embarrass yourself with me. I probably had the same amount. I did do mine in the smaller, what are they, half pint jars? Right. I did them smaller, but I did have bulk in Ziplocs in the outdoor kitchen, in the cabinet we had out there. So in the rig, I kept the smaller ones. But here's the thing. We did the same thing. We packed the kitchen first because priorities. So we packed up the part of the house that was going to be used the most and required, the most organizing and attention to detail, right, to make sure it all fits. So I actually probably had the same number of jars. I think I used, like I said, smaller jars, but I absolutely took all my spices, everything from cinnamon and salt, which I use every day, to saffron and cumin. And I use cumin almost every day too, but as a bad example. But smoked paprika, like ginger, all the spices you don't use on. Yeah. But what I did do eventually is would run out of them, is I would go to places where I could buy bulk spices. And I did buy smaller portions of some simply because I wasn't going through them fast enough. I wasn't, doing a lot of baking, for example, because my oven was I don't know what the size yours is, but if it's the standard RV oven, it's like an easy bake oven almost. Mm-hmm, so, so I think, it's, we just adapted and we prioritized. There was, cabinets that were meant to be storage for maybe DVDs or media things that were under the television. And all of that was spices. And I had another basket that was overflow that went up on one of the ledges. And anywhere I could stash a spice, I did. And I just made it work. But I totally feel you. I remember doing that. I remember outfitting our rig and getting everything unpacked and ready and making it home. And it was such an exciting time of just transition and excitement and trying to figure out okay, what's next? What are you up to, God? So, that was really fun. It's been neat to watch you do the same. And, I'm really loving watching your journey. So I imagine all of our listeners are following your journey as well. But if not, you guys gotta follow along because it's been really interesting and amazing to see God work through their situation.
Well, we are amazed and overwhelmed and, at what he has done, and we're thankful for what he will do. And I'll tell you, he has just worked through people and circumstances, and so we're very thankful. But yeah, the spices, who in their right mind, who takes a half pint jar of star anise on her RV? And yes, I do have a half pint jar of star anise, the whole pod, not the and I'm thinking, okay, this is comical to even me who does this, but yeah, I'm comforted, and I laugh, but seriously, I'm comforted with my spices and my wooden spoons. I don't have all, 259 of them. I don't know how many I used to have, but I've got 4. And, for people like you and I who love to cook and we love to nourish people, and we love to just have folks around our table. And that's what Casseroles and Tacos is all about, isn't it? Just our, 2,000 plus mile long table. And we just invite folks to sit down and just hopefully be nourished and just share stories. And that's what it's all about. So Casseroles and Tacos is really an extension of what you and I like to do in our homes and our lives. And I believe, don't you think, just showing hospitality. Absolutely. And listening to stories and building bridges. And I think that's what drew me to you to begin with, just that we had that common desire and passion to do that. But,
absolutely.
Well, anyway, apparently we have spices in common. The spice love. Stash of spice. I like the way you said that. Is that like whack-a-mole? When you said stash of spice. But
yeah.
I've got a couple of little, I've got a mix recipe I'd like to share with our listeners. And I've got a spice mix recipe. So I've got it's a chili seasoning mix recipe. And I probably will make this in bulk. I like your idea of stashing things. We call it in the basement, the storage part underneath the rig. Actually, it is an outdoor kitchen. It came, and that was a surprise too. If you watch our videos, you realize we didn't get the rig that we actually paid for over the internet. That's a whole story, but we ended up with a great one, and it did have some features and upgrades we didn't expect. One of those is the outdoor kitchen. We didn't expect to get that at all, and it just has the refrigerator. It didn't come with a stove, and I actually like that, because I already had a toaster oven that I'd already purchased, because like I said, we didn't think we were going to have an outdoor kitchen. So I had already purchased that because I know that you and some others have told me, Andrea, had warned me about the RV stove, or oven rather, and the size of it and heating up the RV and different reasons why I wouldn't want to use it. So I had purchased a toaster oven. So we already have that, and that's going to go right in there in the space next to the refrigerator that came in the outdoor kitchen. But I like your idea of storing some spices down there too. I think I want to store my bread machine down there. Do you think that's crazy for me to take a bread machine?
I think that's smart, because I never thought of that. But, one of the things the kids would talk about was, oh, Mom, we miss your homemade bread. And I would use my bread machine sometimes to make the dough, but not to bake the loaf. So it never occurred to me. Yeah, it never occurred to me to take the bread machine to bake the bread, because it could have done that. Right. And I actually sold it in our estate sale. But now that you say that, should we ever hit the road again, I will make sure that we take one.
Around there, and we're going to take it. And this is what I told my husband. I said, and he was fine with my taking it. He was like, look, if you're going to use it, fine. But obviously, if you're not going to use it, don't take it. And I said, okay, let's just do this. If I don't use it, when we come back through here in December, we'll just leave it. That's fair enough. But I think I'm going to have my bread makings down there. Like I'm going to have my bread flour in Tupperware down there, and I'm going to have my yeast in the refrigerator that's down there. And but now I do the same thing. I make my dough. I have a great recipe. I don't know where it is, so please don't ask me for it, friends. I don't know where it is right now. I might can find it, but it's a good, when I say good, it's a great dough. And then I bake it in loaf pans in the oven, and it slices really well for sandwiches. That's why I'm calling it a good bread. It's not like it's really necessarily tasty and flavorsome and savory. It's just a good slicing bread. Anyway, I hope I find that recipe. But I do the same thing. And, you can make pizza dough in the thing. And pasta dough, they say. I don't do that. But, But, okay, back to I wanted to share my chili seasoning mix recipe. And so I probably will make this in bulk and store it in a baggie or some kind of a container. This recipe makes half a gallon container, and I typically store it in a half a gallon ball jar to keep bugs and moisture out. And it said, I'm reading from my cookbook, by the way, but it says I adapted several recipes that I found. So this is just my adaptation. So half a cup of sugar or sugar substitute. Now, let me go ahead and say, you obviously can leave this out. This is a recipe I have used for years and years and years, but in most recent years, I have left the sugar out. I will say, friends, when you look at the packets at the store that you buy, it's going to have sugar in it. So that's one reason why, in my opinion, some of those packets are addictive because, put sugar in anything and they can make us addicted to it. So the half a cup of sugar or sugar substitute, you can also use brown sugar in this too. 2/3 cup of flour or the equivalent thickener according to your dietary preferences. Now, the reason I have that written in my cookbook the way I do is, if you're gluten-free or what have you. So 2/3 cup of a thickener. You could use glucomannan if you chose to do that, but you certainly wouldn't use 2/3 cup. So you need to know what the equivalents are for your dietary needs of a thickener. 3.5 cups of minced dry onions. This is dehydrated onions. 2 cups of chili powder. And that's 2 cups of chili powder. A half a cup of real salt. And that's Himalayan pink salt, Himalayan sea salt, Redmond's real salt. 4 tablespoons of cumin. A half cup of dried minced garlic. So that's dehydrated. Again, that's just dehydrated garlic. So a half a cup of dry minced garlic. 2 tablespoons of red pepper flakes. 3 tablespoons oregano. This is dried oregano. 1 tablespoon ground cloves. And just combine all that, store it in an airtight container, and obviously shake it up before you dip it out to use it. Now, I don't have it written down in front of me how much to use. That part is written on the jar itself because I just always mix more into the jar itself. I want to say, I personally just take a few spoons out and do whatever. I cook by, I heard somebody, old timer the other day, say, I cook by faith and feel. Well, that's me. I cook by feeling and smelling and looking, and I just know. Like you, Andrea. I mean, we just know. But
yeah.
I think if a new cook needed to know how much to make, I'm going to say 1/3 cup of mix to, I want to say 2 pounds of beans. I may be wrong about that. But you just may have to experiment with that, friends. And I do want to say on the red pepper flakes, y'all, it's not, it's still garden time right now. And peppers should still be producing. Pretty much, I know they are here, and I'm sure they are in California. And so I would say, except for maybe extreme north of us, peppers are still producing. And peppers are super easy to string and just hang up and dry. You don't want them in a moist area, of course, humid area, because they could mold inside the pod. I've had that to happen. But I try not to buy dried red pepper flakes anymore because they are treated with preservatives and all kinds of weirdness. So yeah, I don't do that. So just, it's super easy and cheap to dry your own, even if you have to buy it at the supermarket or the open market or what have you. So yeah, that's my chili seasoning mix. And obviously you do have to have, it does call for the 2 cups of chili powder. That's a lot. But if you buy in bulk, that's a really good mix. I've always had success with that recipe. So
it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you have cloves in it.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, that was kind of my addition. I like, you know what? I like tomatoes and cinnamon together. Is that weird?
Oh yeah.
I mean, do
No,
you
not at
have,
all.
can you think of a recipe that because I don't know where that came from that I like that together.
Well, in my chili, I do put a little cinnamon also, which also has the tomato in it. But I made a mole the other night, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a pretty like elaborate sauce with all kinds of weird stuff in it. And I say weird lovingly. And tomato and cinnamon and clove and those kinds of things are all very much. And I'm talking like a whole cinnamon stick ground in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I love when there's a hint of cinnamon or clove or one of those like harvesty sort of smelling spices in something savory. I love that. I love that combination. I feel like it adds interest to it, makes it totally different. When I made that mole the other night, it was like we ate that and thought, we looked at each other with this, like, you could tell we were both just completely enamored with it. And I said, there's nothing else on the planet that tastes like this. And he goes, that's exactly what I was just thinking. You can never find anything else that tastes like mole. There's nothing like this. It's its own complete thing. And I think some of it is because there is those savory elements and those acidic elements mixed with those harvesty fall sort of, comforting, molasses cookie, ginger snap kind of flavors combined with it. So I agree with you.
Yeah. I have been known, I haven't done this recently, but for a while, like for years, I went through a season, so to speak, of putting a pinch of cinnamon in all of my tomato products. I mean, tomato sauce for lasagna or spaghetti sauce or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I do like it together. Not too much.
No, just enough to make people wonder what it is.
Yes, it's very, very delicious. So there's that for our friends to try. Just a pinch of that. Yeah. So
awesome.
yeah,
Sounds
I've got
good.
a couple of other easy peasy things to share. But what about you? Do you have a seasonal food
favorite?
Or yeah.
Actually, I do. So we have a tradition in our house. It's the first day that at night we feel like we need to throw a blanket over our feet, which happened the other day because it got down. Well, for us, chili is 49. That is like, because when we function for months on end at 105, when it hits 49, it's like we're cold. So our tradition is the first time we get cold, we watch Grumpy Old Men, which is one of our favorite movies, and we drink chocolate, which is sometimes it's called abuelita because that's the brand of chocolate that we use. It's Mexican hot chocolate. Speaking of cinnamon, cinnamon is an incredibly important spice ingredient in general in Mexican food, believe it or not. It's you'll find it all over Mexican recipes. And a lot of the sweets in particular are spiked with cinnamon in some way, shape, or form. And the Mexican chocolate is no different. And so the first step to making Mexican hot chocolate is getting your hands on the chocolate itself. And depending on where you live in the country, it may be hard, but it's readily available online. It's put out by Nestle. The brand is Abuelita. That's the one I use. There are other brands like Ibarra, and there's another one that I can't think of right now. But I'll post some of them. I'm going to do a post on hot chocolate. So go over. If you're not following me at our supper stories, I'm going to be doing some hot chocolate stuff in the next few days. So head over there and I'll tell you all about it. But I'm loyal to Abuelita. That's my favorite. And Mexican chocolate is like, it's like cocoa, right? It's like almost like, it's dark, almost like baking chocolate is, right? But it's not bitter because it's got sugar in it and cinnamon. And it's so good. I wanted to make some tonight and I didn't have enough milk. So I'm sitting here with hot tea wishing it was Abuelita. So it's super easy. Say that
slowly. Can you say that word slowly?
Abuelita, it means grandmother, little grandma, like granny.
Oh my word, you're kidding me. I've got to interrupt you. Listen to me. I went to Dollar General the other day. And I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I'm so excited about this because I bought that.
You did?
That stuff. I haven't used it because I didn't know what to do with it. But here's the thing. Now let me take a little tiny rabbit trail here and just say that if it weren't for you, for my meeting you and for my wanting to just share people's stories and hear people's heritage stories and just learn about people all over the nation through Instagram initially, and then it branched out from there. If it weren't for you and you're sharing different things, I probably wouldn't have stopped my little Dollar Tree buggy in front of the Nescafe coffee granules, powder, whatever, mix the other day. And then I looked up and saw, okay, I've already embarrassed myself on this podcast. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I bought it because I like the little granny picture on there.
Isn't she so cute?
Of the stuff, of the chocolate. Yeah. And it said, hot chocolate or whatever it said. And I thought, okay, I'm going to buy this and I'm just going to ask Andrea what to do with it. So I have some here on this very RV in my cabinet. And I don't know what to do with it. That's amazing. But
I'm about to tell you.
$2.50. It was $2.50. $2.50.
That's a good deal.
At Dollar Tree, Dollar General. And then when I saw it at Walmart the other day, it was $3 and something. So just
oh yeah, you got a good deal.
What she's talking about, Dollar General. Yeah. So this is great. I know exactly what you're talking about. So okay,
isn't she cute? The little granny is so cute.
Yes. So tell me what to do with the little. I just looked on the outside of the package and it's like little discs, right?
Yes. So first I want to tell you that the granny on the package is actually a famous actress in Mexico who I guess apparently often plays like the granny role. So she's kind of like, it's almost as if we put Betty White on chocolate here. Like it would be Betty White's hot chocolate, right? So there's that sort of sense of like adoration for her. Anyway, which adds to the story for me. Yeah, okay, so here's what you do. It's the super simplest thing. You take a saucepan. You're going to take a saucepan.
Yep.
You're going to put between 4 and 5 cups of milk in that saucepan. I prefer whole milk. You can use whatever makes you happy, or non-dairy milk is fine too. It'll work. Mm-hmm. And in some parts of Mexico and South America, they make it with water. So that's something you can research if you want. But we're pretty loyal to the milk approach. So you're going to put 4 to 5 cups, depending on how super chocolatey you want it. I usually go for 5 cups. You do you. Okay. So you're going to put, in my case, 5 cups of milk in a saucepan. You're going to drop 1 cinnamon stick, preferably Ceylon cinnamon if you can get your hands on it. And we've talked about this before, but cassia doesn't break. Ceylon cinnamon does. And if it breaks, if you can crumble it, if you can crumble it, that's the one you want, guys. So you're going to drop a cinnamon stick in there. Now, mind you, the package is going to tell you just dissolve it in milk, but I'm giving you the inside scoop on our approach. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've got your cinnamon stick. I always add a teaspoon or 2 of vanilla. I am a major fan of Molina vanilla, but whatever your favorite vanilla is, homemade or otherwise, okay? So a teaspoon or 2, depending on, I usually go for about a teaspoon, okay? But you could add a little more if you wanted. Then I add maybe like a tablespoon or 2 of sugar. And I use piloncillo, which is like a raw cane sugar shaped in a cone, and you grate it. You could use brown sugar, would be ideal. You don't need a ton because, again, there's sugar in the chocolate. So you're going to whisk all that together, bring it up to a simmer, right? Because you don't want it to boil over. Keep whisking it so it doesn't burn. And as soon as it starts to kind of like, how it starts to swell when it's getting hot, you're going to drop that chocolate disc, the whole disc in there. And it melts pretty fast. Now, you could go through the trouble of grating or chopping it. Some people do, but I have found that it doesn't make a difference either way, and it saves you the trouble. I just drop the whole disc in there, and you just whisk it over low heat until it melts. Now, here's the thing about Mexican chocolate. You can serve it just like that, guys. Okay, because it'll be delicious. And you'll notice the chocolate doesn't... you're going to see flecks of chocolate in it. It's not going to be perfectly like Swiss Miss looking. Okay. There's going to be flecks of things, and you fish out that cinnamon stick, by the way. I mean, I'm sure nobody's going to mind it, but you don't want to chew on it. Right. Okay. All right. So you're going to give it a taste, add some sugar if you feel like it needs it. The funny thing about Mexican sweets is they're either like excessively syrupy sweet, or there's just a hint of sweetness. And it's usually just the hint of sweetness. If you look at the sweet breads and the sweet drinks, the hot beverages especially, they're not usually excessively sweet. So it's up to you. If you feel like it needs more sugar, feel free to add it. But here's the thing about Mexican hot chocolate. It's all about the froth. So if you have like a little electric frother, IKEA makes a really great one. You're going to want to froth it, okay? But traditionally, you would use something called a molinillo. And this is a little wooden whisk of sorts. I have a picture of it somewhere. I'll post it. And it has like a little spinning wooden ring on it so that when you rub it back and forth between your hands in the cup, it froths. It works. It acts as a whisk. And legend has it that back in the day, girls would have to prove their worth to future mother-in-laws by how much froth they could create in their chocolate. So there's a lot of pride around how much froth you can get into your chocolate. So I do have a molinillo, and I prefer to use it because I like the tradition. But I'm not going to lie, that little IKEA frother is pretty darn handy when you just want your chocolate fix. So that's my first thing. That's my first and favorite thing to celebrate those. Just like right now, I'm looking at my open window, and I am so happy, and all I want is chocolate, but I don't have any. So, yeah, that's my first one.
I wish
that's
you had
my
my
favorite
little package in here. Oh.
I have the chocolate. I don't have enough milk. So, I didn't want to make it with the water. So, tomorrow milk's on the list.
The little wooden thing you're talking about. What did you say it's called? The whisk thing?
Yeah, it's called a molinillo. And I will, it's MOLINILLO because 2 L's says a Y sound in Spanish. So it's molinillo. Okay. Yeah.
Nillo.
And it's.
Okay. Well, when I was young, like real young, before teenager, my cousin Renee, her family, she grew up in Guatemala. We've had her here as a guest on the podcast. And her parents brought one of those tools to my grandparents, and they had that in their kitchen in Ohio for the rest of my growing up. But I'll have to admit, bless Grandma and Grandpa's heart, in Midwestern Ohio, they probably, they hung it in their kitchen with pride. But I mean, they never used it. They didn't. I mean, they didn't use it. But I know what it is because of that. And I know that you rub the handle, and I'm doing it right now, in between your hands, right? Is that how you do it?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm familiar with that. But there may be many, many people whose Midwestern grandparents didn't have one hanging in their kitchen. And so maybe you could share a picture of that.
Right.
So, yeah. But
I love it.
So that's fascinating. And just the process of preparing that cup of love, for your loved ones, instead of, and so, Swiss Miss has its place,
no doubt.
But it's just something about preparing that, honestly, love is the best ingredient in that preparation, isn't it? And especially if you're trying to prove your worth by your amount of froth, I mean, you're giving it your all. But
absolutely,
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, what else? You said that was your first.
Well, I'll give you my I'll give you my second one real quick, and then I'll pass it back off to you because I want to hear what else you've got in store. But so once I can use my stove, In the summer, I don't turn the oven on at all. Like from June to September, it doesn't get used. And but last weekend, was it last weekend? Maybe the weekend before. I used my oven for the first time. And because a dear friend of mine we were having her surprise birthday party for her 60th birthday. And she's one of my favorite people in the whole world. And she loves my flan. So I decided that was going to be my inaugural dish in the oven for the season. And it's actually super easy. And it comes out looking like $1 million and like it took you all day. But it's actually super easy. So I'm going to give you the directions really quickly. So here's what you need. You need 1.5 cups of white sugar plus an extra half cup. So you're going to have 2 cups, but it's divided. So 1.5 cups and then a half cup. Then you're going to have, and this is where it gets kind of funny because this is how I cook. 6 eggs if they're medium or large, 5 if they're extra large, or say jumbo. Because it matters. Otherwise, you're going to have an eggy flan and you don't want that. Okay. 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk, I am completely brand loyal to La Lechera, but you can use whatever brand you want. That is my favorite.
We have that.
Oh, I think it makes a huge difference. Okay. 2 13-ounce cans of evaporated milk, and I always go for Carnation. And then you can use either a teaspoon of vanilla or, if you have it, a vanilla bean. Okay, so you're going to preheat your oven to 325, and you're going to prepare the custard. The custard is super easy. You get out your blender, you drop the milks in there, the half cup of sugar. Now, make sure you don't do it the other way because it would be way too sweet. So you're reserving the 1.5 cups of sugar. The half cup goes in the carafe, okay, of the blender.
Yeah.
And then either your vanilla bean, which you've scraped out the pod for, or your liquid vanilla, whichever one you're using. You're going to blend all that together. The milks, the sugar, and the vanilla in whatever way you're using it. Then you're going to do the eggs, 1 egg at a time, blending it in between. I don't know if that makes a difference. It's one of those things I do because that's what I was told and taught to do.
Okay.
So I just don't break tradition because I don't want to have a bad flan. So I just do what I'm told. Okay. Then you're going to prepare your caramel. And here's the thing. I can't explain it to you over a podcast. But if you go to my Instagram and use or just Instagram in general, you don't have to go to mine. Go to Instagram and search the hashtag OSSFlan, Our Supper Stories Flan, okay? OSS Flan. I have a video tutorial on how to make the caramel. All you're doing is melting sugar in a pan. That's literally it. And it sounds really easy, but it's very easy to burn and make a big mess out of the thing. So it's just a matter of being at the right temperature, whisking when you're supposed to, and taking it off just in time, okay? So I know it sounds really intimidating, but if you watch the video, it's really not hard. And, okay, so I use a 9x2 cake pan. You don't even have to have a fancy flan pan or anything like that. I use a 9x2 cake pan. It's a Wilton's. I even have the number. It's 2105-7908 aluminum performance pan. I wrote that down in my recipe book because it's like the perfect size pan. It's absolutely ideal. Okay, so you get your pan. As soon as your caramel's done, you dump it straight into the pan and give that pan a quick swirl before it hardens because that stuff hardens almost immediately. Use a pot holder because the pan gets hot immediately with that hot sugar in there, okay? So swirl it to make sure it covers just the bottom of the pan. You don't need it to be up the sides, just the very bottom. And it's going to harden and start popping and cracking. You're going to go over to your blender, hit blend one more time just to reincorporate things, okay? And pour that into the pan over the caramel, which has now hardened. You're going to cover the pan with foil, and you're going to put it, say, in like a roasting pan or something that's larger with a couple inches of water. Maybe not even a couple inches, like an inch of water. So it comes about halfway up. Create a water bath for your flan. So it's going to come about halfway up the pan, however much water that requires for you. You're going to bake it at 325. It takes, I wrote it down in my recipe. It says, bake for 90 minutes. Check it for doneness at this point. You want a knife to go in and come out about 90% clean. You don't want it completely solid. You want it a little jiggly. And if it's not quite done, bake another in 5-minute increments, checking for doneness each time. It takes exactly 95 minutes in my oven, but everyone's oven can be a little different. Once it's done, pull it out, let it cool, and refrigerate overnight. And the next day, all you have to do is take a butter knife around the edge, put a plate over the top, and flip it. And it comes out so beautiful, and you can see a reflection in the sugar, and it's just in the caramel. I mean, it's absolutely just like, it's one of those wow dishes that people are like, you made that? Like, well, sort of. The blender actually did the work, but I did put it on the plate. So yeah, so that's my other favorite. That's like that's usually one of the first things we bake as soon as we feel like we can turn the oven on again.
That is economical, but
yes,
so
absolutely.
Fancy. So fancy.
Yes.
I've just never made it. And I may have probably only eaten it once. That doesn't mean I don't want to eat it many more times, but I'm intimidated by custard.
Oh,
recipe.
No, this one's so easy.
Okay, I have 2 questions. So you said bake for 90 minutes?
90 minutes.
That's a long time. Okay.
I know.
Okay. But
It feels like
foil. Okay.
Yeah, and if you know what, here's the thing. If you want to do 60 and check it, do 60 and check it. Mine, it depends. I mean, some of my ovens have run hotter than others. And, but if it's a little underdone, when you go to flip it, it's going to break. So maybe if it makes you, maybe start checking it at 60 minutes if it feels more comfortable to you.
Okay.
And then
I
just,
trust you. I just, making sure. Did you butter or grease the pan before you put that caramel in there?
Nope. It just goes right into the pan.
No.
And it does make cleanup a little bit tricky, but no, it doesn't stick. Some of it stays behind. It does have like a layer of candy, like hard candy that sticks in the pan, but most of the caramel comes out because it cooks it somehow. I don't know. It's like a magic trick. I don't know how it doesn't stay hard candy.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe the custard softens it or something. Or whatever. I don't know.
I love making it. It makes me feel like a pro every time.
Yes. So gourmet. You're just, wow. Thanks for sharing that. That's good stuff. That sounds, maybe there's others out there who you've fortified them and me, and we can do this, we can do flan.
You can absolutely do flan.
That sounds good. Well, I have one final quickie. It's not a recipe. It's proportions or whatever to share. And then we need to let our friends go so they can get to their bulk food ordering and get them some spices. Spice up their fall, right?
Exactly.
Apple pie spice, but this is also, it's written down as apple pie spice, but I use it. It can be pumpkin pie spice. Not really, but it can. Apple pie spice, 4 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 2 teaspoons ground nutmeg, 1 teaspoon ground cardamom. If you haven't tried cardamom, welcome to your new favorite spice because it is I love cardamom. It's an ingredient in chai tea, chai spice mix. So, but that's apple pie spice. That's not necessarily pumpkin pie spice recipe. Recipe. But that's it. And what did I write down? In my notes on my cookbook I have, this is used in a creative cook's kitchen for more than apple pie seasoning. Try putting it with coffee grounds before brewing the coffee in the autumn, or use it in spice muffins or fried apples. So there you go.
Yum.
That is a little bit of spiciness for our friends. And they've got flan recipe. They can have chili. And they're all set. They've got some new recipes. Sounds good to me.
I think it sounds wonderful.
Lots of love there. Yeah.
Heck yeah. And I love cardamom. I would just want to second that really quick. If you guys haven't tried it yet, get your hands on some because you will not be sorry. Mm-hmm. So good.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that combination. It sounds amazing, Katie. Thank you very much. I feel like it would be so good in my empanadas. Like apple empanadas with that spice would be incredible. I may have to give that a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just sorry that you've made me so hungry right now. Everything sounds delicious coming out of your kitchen.
Oh my gosh. That sounds good. I just want to get baking now.
Yeah. So apple. So you make fruit empanadas. Is that what you're saying? Not the meat?
Yeah. No, we don't make meat ones. We make them fruit. Yeah. Right now it's pumpkin. We'll do pumpkin. Apple. We have apples on the tree. So
yum.
Yeah. So that will be definitely something that we do soon.
Awesome.
But yeah. Great. But anyway, I love all of this, and now I'm super excited that fall's here, which I was already excited because it's my favorite, but I'm even more excited now. We're so grateful that you guys joined us. Thank you so much. I hope you'll try some recipes. If you have any questions about any of the recipes we've talked about today, please feel free to shoot us a message and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. Follow us over on Instagram at Casseroles and Tacos. And of course, we'll have more information and more chit chat for you to continue the conversation today. So thanks so much for joining us, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will catch you next time. Until then, remember that love is the best ingredient. See you soon.
Bye-bye.